For the kettlebell clean, we're always going to begin with that first clean coming from the floor. And each clean after that is actually going to be from the hips. But to get us started, first thing we need to do is bring that kettlebell from the floor up to what we call the rack position. In this demonstration, we're just going to be using a single kettlebell and using a single arm. To begin this, I'm going to start with this kettlebell. I'm going to show you from the side so you understand how far away we're going to be from it. First, the most obvious thing is we want to be centered on the kettlebell. Next, we're going to be about 1.5 feet or a foot behind that kettlebell. You'll see why soon. I'm going to set up my knees and hips first by spreading the floor apart with my feet, driving the knees out and the butt back as I hinge at my hips, keeping a nice flat neutral spine. From here, I'm going to reach out with whichever arm you want to start with. Fully extend the arm, make sure the wrist is straight and it's not bent back. Wrap the thumb and fingers around securely, and then tilt that kettlebell back. This is your starting position. Taking a nice deep belly breath. Next, you're going to swing that kettlebell powerfully behind the hips. And then as it's starting to swing forward, you're going to stand up, extending the knees and hips. And you're going to guide that kettlebell smoothly up to the rack position. It'll look like this. It's going to round over top, kind of what I call a corkscrew. It's going to roll on top of your wrist. And then each successive repetition is actually going to go down to the hips. So it's going to roll off my wrist. As I bend at the hips, slightly at the knees, I'm going to actively swing it back behind my hips. And then again, extend the knees and hips, coming up to that full standing position, letting it roll back up. Let's see that from the front. When I lower it, I'm going to bring it back down to the hips, bending at the hips, and let it down in front of me. Let's begin it from the floor, from that front position. 1.5 feet behind it, centered on my body. Spread the floor apart with my feet, drive the knees out, butt back. With a nice flat neutral spine, reach down, grab the center of that handle, tilt it back. From here, taking a nice deep belly breath, swing it back behind the hips, explode forward and up, let it roll onto the wrist. And where it sits up here is actually going to be a little triangle formed by your wrist, your elbow, and your shoulder. You got a lot of padding on your shoulder, where that shoulder meets the bicep, and a little bit of the chest actually. From the side shot, it'll look like this. Notice too that my wrist is straight. I don't have my wrist bent back like so. That's a no-go. Should sit nice and good in that pocket. When I come down for each successive clean, I'm going to let it roll off my wrist as I let it swing back. Notice how it stays close to my body. One of the most common errors with this movement, people allow that kettlebell to come way out in front of them. Then they end up slamming themselves in the face, the chest. Keep it close to your body. This is the most efficient way of doing it. Same thing when we let that kettlebell come down. There's no need to let it go all the way down until it's almost touching the ground. Okay? Instead, we want to keep it nice and close to the hips. It should actually, the inside of your wrist, your forearm should be hitting the inside of your leg. Again, keeping it as close to your body as possible. From here, you can go into an overhead press. You can go into a push press, a jerk, whatever you want to do, or more cleans. If you want to switch, you can either A, lower it back down to the ground, just like we did before, or B, you can switch mid-air. I'll show you that from both the front and the back. Again, setting up from the floor, spread the floor apart, drive the knees out, butt back, grab the center of the handle, tilt it, belly breath, swing behind the hips, explode forward and up, cleaning. From here, I'm going to switch, mid-air, clean, boom, from the side. Hip hinge, swing it back, come forward. Notice I'm switching midway through. I'm just putting one hand over the other and switching which one's holding on. Round it up. When I'm done, let it round down, lower it to the ground. With kettlebells, it's all about being smooth. It's not like when we use barbells or dumbbells. They're a little more jerky, I like to call them, where there's a lot more ground and pound going on. With this, it's just smooth operator, okay? That's how you do the kettlebell clean, both from the floor and from the hips.